it's the boring subject.
Nick,
Good morning.
how are you today?
Doing better.
Good. You all had a good weekend? Ready to start the week? I received a few emails over the weekend how you can study for this literature search test. So I was really very impressed. You are really on it and would like to perform well. So that's a good sign. But for this test, there's really no need to study because you want to evaluate really your baseline, your general knowledge on literature search. And this test I intended to distribute over Qualtrics today in the morning. Somehow it did not work, so I brought hard copies. So on those hard copies, there's no information on where to put on your name. So I would appreciate if you put on your name right here at the corner, and that will be a confirmation that you took the test, and it will be also your attendance for today. At the end of today's course, or at the end of today's class, there will be another distribution, the same test, but evaluating your knowledge after you listened carefully to the class today. So there will be 2 assignments. I will try to make the Qualtrics work. It might come at the end of today. It might come tomorrow. So once I'm able to distribute it, I will send an email notification over Canvas that the email has been distributed and that you should look for it in your email box. You don't have to email me when will it be distributed. I have not received it yet. So I will send out an email when I will send it that will be over Canvas first. And then you should look into your email box. With this, I will distribute this. Can somebody help me distributing? If you make sure that you write down your name. And then once you have taken the test, can you put it here at the side so that we have the pile? And the test should take about 5 to 10 minutes to take. So we'll give you time to complete your test first. No, she said sorry. And please don't forget to write down your name on the first page. Write down your name. You have 3 more minutes. Thank you. And today it's a great pleasure to have Ms. Shan Tamaris here from our library, who will be talking about how to effectively search the literature. And then after an hour, we will do a little bit of a hands-on workshop on finding the top 5 articles related to your topic. All of you know which group you're assigned to, correct? So everybody knows, right? So the 8 groups have been finalized with the topic. So today we'll do the search on the top 5 article list a little bit later, and I will discuss that a little bit later on as well. So let's give a big applause to Mr. Tamaris.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to try this out without the microphone, but if it gets so the people in the back can't hear me, let me know and I'll use the microphone. So my name is Shan. In the back, I brought my colleague Heather, and in a few minutes, another colleague of ours is going to come and meet. And we are part of a reference team at the library that will help you with your searching. So I have a lot to go over in the next hour. Believe it or not, in this agenda, I could spend an hour on probably at least each of these bullet points. So this is going to go pretty fast, but I want this to be very useful to you. So at any moment that you don't understand it, or if you've been searching and it's not worked that way for you, stop me and we'll clarify, because your question is probably going to help one of your classmates who didn't even know they had that question. And I understand you've had information on EBP already, on evidence-based practice, is that right? Okay, great. So this first part is just going to be a quick review. And then we're going to, it's going to be a review, and it's mostly to get our mindset into thinking about EBP and the context with which we're going to do the nitty-gritty, which is understanding these searching concepts. Then I'm going to show you searching in some of the databases that I know you will use. And then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll go into looking for those resources yourself. Okay. So I said that I was going to go quickly, but I don't want you to have to scramble to take notes. So I put all these resources in a spot that you can refer back to later. So I'm going to walk you through how to get to this spot, and I'm going to walk you through a couple more times after this. So hopefully you've used the library homepage before. It's just library.llu.edu. And from the library homepage, you're going to go to Quick Links, which is at the top, kind of center. And in Quick Links, it's going to bring up a page that shows kind of our most commonly used resources. And you're going to want to click on Library Guides. The Library Guides page is a list of several guides that we have that can help you out with different topics. You're going to navigate down to evidence-based practice. And then this is not intuitive. When you click on evidence-based practice, it's going to open up with another link underneath it that says evidence-based practice. Click on that link, and that will take you to the LibGuide that you'll see in a little bit. Okay, so since this is a review, can you tell me what the three components are that integrate to create evidence-based practice? You can yell it out. What's one component?
Observational studies.
What is that? Okay. Experiment? Very close. So, evidence-based practice, one of it is the evidence, right? Another component of it is, so when you're in the clinic and you're making decisions about your patient's care, you're going to rely on your education and your own experience, right? And then the third one is going to be your patient's preference. So like, I am a person who doesn't like to take drugs, so if all possible, I'm going to try to bear with it, and that will be my preference so that my clinician is going to take that into account. I sometimes hear of a fourth thing that influences evidence-based practice, and that is the system. So the evidence might say something, your experience might back that up or tell you something different, your patient's values will come into play, but sometimes the decision that you make is going to be affected by the system that you work in. It could be your insurance, It could be that whatever test you need done is not offered within the system that you work. Okay, so that's evidence-based practice. Here's kind of the definition that we always see from David Sackett, who's the pioneer of evidence-based medicine. And in these two short sentences that I've excerpted, it mentions best evidence twice. Use of current best evidence in making decisions in that first sentence. The second sentence, it talks about the best available external evidence from systematic research. So that's what we're going to focus on today, how to find that best evidence. So something that really hits home with me when I'm thinking about this topic is there's really been this information explosion for several decades. And I've heard that term, and I thought it was a buzzword in the last few decades. But I looked it up, and it's actually, they've been talking about that since the 1960s, which is kind of crazy to me. But it's occurred so much in the last several decades of this explosion of published scientific literature. It grows by about 8 to 9% every year. And then if we just think about the explosion in biomedical literature, let's look at PubMed, for example. PubMed is not all biomedical literature. It's just one snapshot of it. In PubMed, the intake of published articles is over 1 million per year. So it's like, great, we're doing all this research, right? But the crazy thing is there's this lag between when something is figured out in your research and when it is put into practice at the bedside. Has anyone read how long that lag is? Or is there a guess that you can give me for that lag?
10 years.
2 years.
2 years, what did you say?
10 years.
10 years, I got 10 years, 2 years.
5 years. 15 years.
15 years, very close. It's 17 years.
No.
So if you're about to have a baby, they're going to be an adult before we even see how this research affects decisions at bedside. So this is why this is so important. And the idea about evidence-based medicine is that you're using the best evidence to make your decisions, but also part of evidence-based practice, I should say, is that you're creating the best evidence. So what is the best evidence? You've probably seen this evidence pyramid. It's fairly common. It's kind of generic. You might see different things depending on what the researchers are trying to focus on or whoever created the graphic. But I want to point out a few things. If you notice, the bottom of the pyramid is where the bulk of the information is, right? It's the unfiltered information. In other words, it's your primary studies. No one has gone through it and appraised these primary studies. So that's what you're seeing when you're doing quick searches. You're seeing the bulk. The best evidence is at the very top. And I would say at the very top it says systematic reviews. It should also say meta-analyses. So a systematic review is you systematically collect all these studies on a particular topic, and these studies should answer a clinical question. And then the reviewers in a team, they look at all these studies, they analyze them, they critically appraise them, and then they synthesize all that information, and that should answer that clinical question. The meta-analyses is a systematic review, but you're adding on to that this statistical model. So if you found a bunch of studies that are similar enough where you can compare all the data, put it through this statistical model, and report it as if you've done one study, then that's what your meta-analysis is, okay? So what happens is you go up this pyramid, all these study designs, they add components to them that make the study design stronger in that they eliminate bias. So at the very bottom, you have expert opinion, and of course it's going to be biased, but then you have, for example, case studies. A case study is it's not even an experiment. It's totally unplanned. You've just seen an interesting patient. You want to write up on it because it doesn't maybe follow things that you understand about how this disease, probably this disease should work. So there's really no control. But as you move up, they add things like randomization and control to really help with bias. Okay? So undoubtedly, in your matriculation, you've had to write a literature review, and that's just your teacher saying, hey, can you find these articles on this topic, maybe critically appraise them, summarize this topic. You can see it provides a summary or review of the topic. The question can be general. Usually it's you, or maybe there's a group of people writing this article. You maybe have known about this assignment for a week, a couple of weeks. Under requirements, you perform a search of one or more databases, and you provide a summary of the literature on the topic. The systematic review, remember that's at the very top of the pyramid, systematic review and meta-analysis. It's really exhaustive of all the current literature on your topic of the time. It's answering a focused clinical question. Again, you're eliminating bias. So, to eliminate bias in a systematic review, you've got a team that you're working with. As if you look down, number of authors is 3 or more. So before you even undertake a systematic review, you write a paper about what you're going to do. So you write this protocol and you say, here's the research I'm going to do, and here are the articles that I'm going to include, here are the articles I will not exclude. This eliminates for bias because then you don't search the literature and say, I don't really feel like looking at this, just for no apparent reason, right? Or you might look at the literature and feel like, oh, I really want to say this in my systematic review, but that would be biased. So you've got to have at least 2 other people looking at all the studies, and then if there's a disagreement, you have to have a plan for when there's a disagreement on if a study should be included or not included. So all this to say that it's very stringent what goes into a systematic review, and that's why it's some of the best evidence. Any questions on that?
We haven't done a literature yet.
Oh, okay.
There, but explaining, are you saying that systematic reviews, the conclusion of these reviews align together? Like they come up with the same results? If you're saying something about, I could copy the same data, something.
Oh, for the meta-analysis. Okay.
That's not the same thing. Is that the same thing?
A meta-analysis is a systematic review, and then added on top of that, if your data from the studies that you're looking at, if they're similar enough, and when I mean similar enough, I mean was the experiment conducted in a similar way? I don't mean do they all say the same thing? But then you'll put it through the statistical model, and then it will show you the strength of all these studies. Does that make sense? You might see some, and then you'll see how that works. So that's kind of a lot, but that's just to understand what goes into the best evidence at the top. Let me go back really quick. At the very bottom, the value is it connects practicing clinicians to high quality evidence. So that's why that's really good, because when you're at the bedside, you're not going to start doing a literature search, right? You just want to know the answer right away so that you can make the best decision. Okay, so this is a review. There are 5 steps in the EVP process, and I've created this graphic to show that it's not necessarily linear. You might ask the question, you might acquire the evidence, and realize, I kind of need to change my question. So you go back, ask the question again. Okay? And today we're going to focus in the next few minutes on asking the question, and then we'll spend the bulk of the rest of the time on acquiring the evidence. So this should be a review. What is a PICO question? You guys have read about PICO, right? Maybe, maybe not. It's really just a mnemonic to help you remember the components of a well-built clinical question. So the P would be, does the P sound familiar to anyone?
Purpose?
The P in the PICO question is your population, your patient population, or the problem. The I is the intervention, or what you're trying to kind of test for or look for. The C is the comparison. The C, I think this question you've had, the C is not absolutely necessary. Sometimes, to put in your question rather, the C, sometimes you're comparing, say, a drug or a therapy you're comparing it to kind of the standard of care at the time. Maybe you might be comparing it to another drug or a different therapy, or maybe you're not comparing it to anything. You're just comparing it to not using a drug. So that is not absolutely necessary in your question, and then the outcome is what you'd like to measure or achieve. So I said I would take you to the guides again, and this is where I'm going to take you there. Okay, so here's the library homepage. And just as a review, we're going to go to quick links. We're going to go to library guides. We're going to go to evidence-based practice. I click on that. It drops down. I click on evidence-based practice again. So this is a guide that will really help you through all the pieces of this. And then I'm going to go over this tab right now, PICO. But also, I've created a tab for dentistry where we're going to look at, I've kind of put all your resources together. So you don't have to feel like I don't really know where to go, which database to use. Okay, so PICO, let's practice a PICO together. We have a few examples here, but I have some more dental-centric examples at the bottom. Let's do this first one together. Take a minute to read this. Okay, so what would be the problem here? What would be the P in this case scenario?
Victoria.
Victoria is the patient. So a lot of times when you're creating this in your question, you're adding things like demographic, like, you know, a mother of 3, 55-year-old. But what's really the problem here? What is she finding is a problem? Exactly. Yeah. Stained teeth. There's really no exact right answer how to exactly put it, but we're getting at stained teeth. And then what would be the intervention?
Whitening.
Over-the-counter whiteners, yeah.
Over.
So whitening with hydrogen peroxide. And then in this, she's trying to compare it to what?
Brushing teeth.
She's thinking, is it just effective as brushing teeth? But then the trick here is, should she make a teeth whitening appointment? So what would she be using in a tooth whitening appointment, if you know? I didn't know, so I'll just whitening with. Okay, so apparently that's not over the counter. So then the outcome would be exactly stain removal, whiter teeth, maybe treatment longevity, and so you've got the P, the I, the C, and the O, and now you create the question with all those portions. So that might be an example of the question you'd write. In adult patients with stained teeth, is whitening with hydrogen peroxide of an at-home teeth whitening treatment as effective therapy compared to standard treatments such as carbamide peroxide? Okay, so that's just one example of how you would write your question. We can do another one here. Let's do the second one. Tom is a 65-year-old male who is concerned about his bad breath. You tell him that he wouldn't have to be so concerned about it if he only brushed his teeth. He doesn't believe you and says, "Show me the evidence." Okay, so in this question, the P is problem.
Bad breath.
Yep, bad breath. The intervention is
Oral hygiene.
exactly. The comparison is exactly. And the outcome would be exactly. Does toothbrushing in comparison with doing nothing, i.e. what the patient is currently doing, decrease bad breath in older male adults? So there's your PICO question. Okay? Any questions about PICO? That was really fast. You'll have time to practice it. So now what I really want to spend most of the time on is acquiring the evidence. So I'm going to go through some of the nitty-gritty about searching in the next few slides, and then go into how we use those tips and techniques in the actual databases. Okay, so this is an exercise that I've done with nursing students, and we're pretty rushed for time, so I'm just going to explain what the point of this exercise is. What I do is I bring up this image and I tell the nursing students, if you were trying to find an image that looked like this in a database of photographs, what kinds of words would you use to bring back this image? Nurse, I heard 1940s. In the class, they've often said like nursing caps, they've said women.
What are those, like clamps?
Right, so we don't really know what they are at this point. So the point is, and then I kind of tally up how many people said women, how many people said this, and how many people said that. And so really what we're getting at is we're really just guessing at the words used to index this photograph, right? We don't really know. And that's really analogous to what you're doing when you're doing your searching. You're guessing at the words that are indexing each article, or you're guessing at how the author describes something in his paper. So for example, maybe you're looking at cancer when the author maybe never said cancer. Maybe the author said the specific name of the cancer and it doesn't have the word cancer in the name. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's just kind of example of what we do everyday searching. That's text word searching and that's keyword searching. And then if you're curious, I always bring it up so people can see. This is in an archival, the Library of Congress archives on Flickr. And so these are actually not even nurses. They're two Navy wives, and they're assembling bands for blood at this laboratory. So if we were only looking at this description and said nurses, nursing caps, 1940s, we wouldn't have even brought up this photograph, right? And their official subjects there are Baxter Laboratories, medical equipment and supplies, World War, and they have the dates, women, and employment, and the place that this took place. So that's kind of analogous to what's happening when you're doing your search using keywords, right? So let's go back here. So that's text word searching. And you need to use text word searching because you heard me say PubMed gets over 1 million articles put in it every day. Well, they can't immediately just automatically be tagged with official terminology. So if it's maybe a new term or a new article in the system, you'll only get it by using text word searching. The problem is you'll get a lot of results and maybe a lot of them will be false hits, right? So what's the alternative? The alternative is using controlled vocabulary, and really good databases have a controlled vocabulary. This is an example, a definition from the National Institutes of Health of the MESH controlled vocabulary. And what I see there is that there's a definition, there's a hierarchical structure with cross-references, it indexes all these articles, and so MESH is a really good example of that. So here's an example. If I was told to write an article on I can't remember how to pronounce this, talipes, which is a foot deformity, instead of having to know that flat foot, club foot, talipes cavus, equinus deformity, that those are all these talipes deformities, the official controlled vocabulary word is talipes. So theoretically, if I search on talipes, I'll get everything on anything tagged or indexed with the word talipes, including flat foot, club foot, talipes, etc. Okay? So controlled vocabulary, theoretically it makes the search complete, but remember I said you'll have to use text word searching for very new articles that have not yet been indexed. And also, if there are very new terms, they're not going to have a controlled vocabulary term attached to it. There are a lot of pros about using controlled vocabulary. I do a lot of searching for researchers on campus. I don't know what they're researching. Sometimes, to me, it's just very esoteric. I look it up in the controlled vocabulary, I read the definition, and if I'm not getting anything on one of the words I'm searching, I'll look at the, I think it mentioned related terminology. Maybe I'm getting too many, and maybe I realize I don't want to do a paper on all of talipes deformities. I just want to focus on clubfoot. Okay, so that's what controlled vocabulary can do for you. It can also disambiguate. So disambiguation, the example I usually like to use is the word cavity. If you search on the word cavity in PubMed, you're going to get so many hits because are you talking about dental caries or are you talking about whatever body cavity that you're talking about, right? Nursing is another good example. Do you mean nursing the profession? Do you mean breastfeeding? So using controlled vocabulary will disambiguate from if you're talking about Freddie Mercury, the god, the element, the Ford Mercury, the planet, etc. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, then I also like to bring up Boolean logic, the and, the or, and the not. And it seems super simple, but I always bring it up because it's not mathematical logic, and it's also not the way we speak. So if I invited you to a potluck and said, hey, can you bring strawberry ice cream and vanilla ice cream? I kind of had in my head that you would bring like a container of strawberry, a container of vanilla, and not some weird watered down vanilla version of strawberry in one container. But that's what Boolean logic is. The and, every time you use an and between terms, it narrows your search because you're saying both those terms, all those terms have to be in my results. Every time you use an or, it broadens. So you're using an or between synonyms for words. So you might say cavity or dental carie or whatever other term you have for that topic. And then at the end, the not restricts, but I encourage people not to use not in academic searching at least, because you never know what you're eliminating when you use not. Some authors have like a name that is a body part, like I have a friend with the last name Head and a friend with the last name Shin. What if I was doing research on I don't know, some leg part and I said not Shin? But my friend with the last name Shin wrote an article on that. I mean, it's unlikely, but you just never know. So here is an example. On the left, if I did a search of all the articles on toothpaste, that's represented by that Venn diagram circle. On the right is every article on tooth bleaching. When you're using and, you're only getting articles back that mention both toothpaste and tooth bleaching, okay? And then the tip there is anytime you have a phrase where you want to keep the words together, put them in quotations to keep those words together. So for example, if I were looking up heart attack, I wouldn't want an article that didn't talk about heart attacks but mentioned heart in one place and then attack somewhere else, right? Okay, the or is I would get back anything on toothpaste and anything on tooth bleaching, which is why you'll get a lot back.
I assume that and would have the word toothpaste and tooth bleaching in the same article?
Yeah, exactly. So when you're looking at and, you want you're anding the large concepts. So you're anding, you want toothpaste, and you're also looking at tooth bleaching. When you're using the or, you're looking at synonyms. So toothpaste or, I can't think of synonyms for toothpaste, but that's where you would use that. And then the not, again, I encourage you not to use not, unless it's very apparent that you're getting so many misdirect hits from a similar term. In some of these databases, you'll find that there are these kind of fancy encoding that you can put in. You don't have to worry about it too much, but if you do have a question, we can answer it for you. I would just, out of these, I would say use the quotations, and that's a very good search tool. Then we're all going to be tempted to have a favorite database. I have a favorite database. You probably have a favorite search engine, right? You have a go-to search engine that you use, and that's just human nature. But when you're doing academic research, you really want to diversify. Maybe not for this assignment where you only need 5 articles, but when you're writing something, maybe at the end of your education here, and you need to be comprehensive about your topic, you want to diversify. So here's an example that I've shown my behavioral health students. These are 2 different databases that we have on this campus, and they focus on the social sciences. On the left is PsycInfo, on the right is SocIndex, and those are very commonly used for behavioral health. You might use them if you have some kind of behavioral health component to your topic. And on the left-hand side, I've put every journal title that is indexed in PsycInfo. On the right-hand side on a spreadsheet, I put every journal title that is indexed in SocialIndex. Some of our students are very tempted to only search one and not both. So every time you see the highlighting, that is a journal that is indexed in both databases. So here's the first page of those spreadsheets. Here's the second page. So on the second page, you might be thinking, there's a lot of overlap. I'm just going to search one database and then call it a day. But if we keep on going, just to show you how much overlap there is, how much highlighting there is. At the end of the day, on the left-hand side, that was PsycInfo. It tapped out at over 2,500 titles, but we're still on the right-hand side in SocialIndex in the J's. So let's see how big of a database this is. It was over 6,000 indexed titles. So you can see if you're only searching one thing, you're really gonna limit yourself. Yes, it's a pain when you're searching multiple places because you'll get overlap, but we can show you methods for deduplicating some of that duplication. Okay. So let's go into some of the databases. Let's escape that. So just as a reminder, from the library homepage, you're going to go to quick links, you're going to go to library guides, you're going to navigate to evidence-based practice, click on the second link. Okay, so here's where I want to show you all your resources in this dentistry tab. On the left-hand side, I've kind of put these journals that are focused on evidence-based practice, and they're linked for you, so you should be able to click them, and it should open up in Browsine, which is a resource that we have for you. It's kind of neat. It is like creating your own virtual bookshelf. Like, say you wanted to follow a topic, you could create your own bookshelf. You could get notifications for any time there's new articles on a topic or in your journal that you're following, but you can easily kind of get to the PDF here. So those are just two journals that are focused on evidence-based practice. And then on the right-hand side, there are some websites for you that are focused on evidence-based dentistry, and then some books about evidence-based dentistry, and they all happen to be electronic. So you could just click on them, and then you can search in those books. So that's really convenient. But what I want to focus on are the resources in the center, which are our licensed databases. And I'm going to do a search in, I would say for this group, you're definitely going to want to go into PubMed. So let's do that first. So PubMed is a free government website, but I would say always go to PubMed from the library page, either from this guide or it's in our quick links, and I'll show you why in a minute. So I can just mock up a search here. And then let's do keyword searching or text word searching, just words off the top of my head. Let's do dental health. And so this is my big concept, dental health, and let's do diet. So I did keyword or text word searching, and this is what I love about PubMed. And it's really geeky to love a database, but I do love this about PubMed. If you scroll down, and this is the only database that I know of that does this, on the right-hand side, it tells you how it interpreted your search. So I click on the See More details, and if I scroll down a little bit more, it tells me how it translated my search. It looked at dental health, and it knew that there's an official terminology for dental health, and it's oral health. So it searched that, but then it still did what I asked it to do. It looked for oral anywhere in an article. It looked for health anywhere in an article. It also looked for oral health as a phrase anywhere in this article. So you can see why we're getting way too much, right? And it might not be helpful for my actual search. And then I put diet, and diet is the official terminology, but it looked it up both ways. It looked it up as a keyword. You see at the end, it looked for diet in any field. And it also looked it up officially as a mesh term. So I can play around with this search here, and I can say I just want oral health, the official terminology, or oral health, let's delete all this. I want oral health if it's a phrase that I find in the title or abstract of an article. And this is something that I don't have written anywhere, but it is a favorite trick of mine in PubMed to change all fields to TIAB, which means you're looking for that term just in the title or the abstract. So then I can say, let's get rid of everything else, and let's leave diet the way it is, and then diet in the title or the abstract. So I had almost 9,000 results, and I'm gonna search, and didn't like one of my parentheses, but it's still okay. Actually, you want parentheses between ands to keep things together. You want parentheses around any statements that have an or, and then if there's an and, you end the parentheses, then you have your and then you have your next set of or statements. So that narrows it down a little bit, and I said I would show you why you want to use PubMed from the library homepage. You're going to want to change from this really short summary format that you're seeing here. It just gives you the bare bones of the citation. You're going to want to change that to abstract. Number one, you're going to want to see the abstract to see if it's going to be helpful to you. And then also, you should have this purple button underneath each article. This purple button will tell you if the library has this in full text. So if I click this, it should look it up in our catalog, and it'll tell you if we have it or not. Okay, so it's saying, here's the citation you're looking for. Yeah, we do in fact have it. And then I read this like 3 different columns at the bottom. There's a resource column, or I'll start from the left. There's a click column, a coverage range column, and a resource column. I check the coverage range to make sure we have the year that you're looking for. We're looking at a 2019, and we have till the present, so we're good there. Under the resource link, what I look for is it can say anything except for the name of the library, which is Del Webb Library. If it says Del Webb Library, you got to come over to the library and look at it physically. It's physically in the library. Any other name, you're good. It's available electronically. And so you can click this article link, and it'll take you very close to the article, if not to the full text itself. Sometimes you kind of have to search around for the PDF icon. Okay? That's how you get full text, and that should be in pretty much every database that you search, that purple button. If it's not, shoot me an email because you pay a lot of money for the resources. Okay, so we've been talking about best evidence in that first part of the lecture, right? Right now, we're probably getting what's at the bottom of the pyramid. Remember I mentioned that. You can, on the left-hand side, customize what you're looking at and filter to the best evidence. So on the left-hand side in PubMed, click on Customize under Article Types. And what we want to do now is show the best evidence, right? So we want to know, are there any systematic reviews or meta-analyses on my topic? And you can open this up if you're not finding enough. Just go down this pyramid and look for the next best study that's available. Okay, so I click on show. It's kind of unintuitive. It just shows it. It does nothing to my search. I now have to choose. I want to look at meta-analyses or systematic reviews. These might not all apply exactly to your topic because we search very broadly, but it's worth looking at. 25 is an easy number to look through to just quickly say, oh yeah, these don't apply or these do apply. So that's PubMed. That's just quickly how to get to that evidence. In general, you'll be putting your search terms in here, and there'll be keywords that you put in there. You can do what I did, scroll down and look at these search details and kind of manipulate your search. And this is kind of what I'd spend maybe a lot of time in just a class specifically going through searching, you could go into the actual MESH database, that's the Controlled Vocabulary Thesaurus, and you can say, are there any, is there an official terminology for maybe a specific diet? So maybe your patients are doing the ketogenic diet, it's having an effect on their teeth. There is a official terminology for ketogenic diet. So I'm just scrolling down here, and I just want to show you, here is where there are these related terms. Here's ketogenic diet. Maybe you're not getting enough. You want to go up this, this list of controlled vocabulary and broaden it to carbohydrate restricted diets, and look at that. And then you would say, yep, I want that. You can add it to your search builder, and then you can add your key and text word terms in there as well. We'll be here, so if you need help in PubMed, we'll help you get through that. Any questions on PubMed? Okay.
So I know you said we want to look everywhere for resources, but would PubMed be the most?
I would say predominantly PubMed for biomedical research. And you only need to look everywhere if you're doing like one of these comprehensive papers. Probably for your research here, if you're doing a shorter research paper, PubMed, and then a couple of these other databases that I'll show you, just to see that you're really getting a good grasp on what people are writing on your topic. Okay? So I'm going to go back to this guide, and I would say PubMed for you guys, and I will give you two others. There's a lot there, and they're all very good. Actually, I'll give you a few others. TRIP database is very easy to use, so I'll show you that database. TRIP database is really great because of the way it just lays things out for you. Let's try the same search. I haven't tried this, so So in this, it basically said there's really no matching there's no Q&A matching dental health and diet. If I scroll down, you see how it kind of color coordinates all these different resources. So I just look on the right to see what it is. You can even click. There are 31 systematic reviews that it brings up. There are guidelines. On some evidence pyramids, guidelines are at the top. Because if you think about guidelines, experts kind of looked at the systematic reviews, they looked at the best evidence, and then said, here's how we should interpret this best evidence. So that's TRIP, very easy. And I would say Embase. Embase has been described as kind of a European PubMed. It's not exactly accurate, but it's a good way of looking at it. And it's very easy to search. So you can start just typing in your topic. So it's going to give you the official terminology right away, your controlled vocabulary right away. So in this database, dental health is an appropriate term. And since this is European, sometimes it's surprising, their terminology. So I'm going to click on dental health. And then I'm going to say, and diet. And this one, it's saying to use nutrition. So I'm going to take their suggestion. So in this search, I'm only using the official controlled vocabulary. I still have almost 3,000 results. When you have too much, you can add other terms. So maybe I want to look at a specific diet. Ketogenic diet is there, or I can broaden it to very low calorie. Actually that's narrower. So that narrowed it down. Oh, there's only one result. Hold on. Yeah. So that narrowed it down too much. So let's start typing this again. It looks like. Yeah, it looks like there really is only one in this database. And it might even overlap with something that's in PubMed. So I would say, I mean, that's not a good example, but it's a really good database that's kind of new on this campus. And then for you guys, CINAHL Complete, it's kind of an allied and nursing health database, but it does have some of your topics in it. So those are kind of 4 that you might try this afternoon, I mean, not this afternoon, but in the next hour that you have to work. So in CINAHL, you could search directly, and this would just be your keywords. You might say dental health. I want to keep it as a phrase. And it gives me suggestions, and these are not official suggestions. These are just suggestions based on what other people have searched, but they're pretty good. So I see, oh, okay, this is where I want to use or. And then I would just add the quotations around the phrases here. Dental health, or oral health, or dental hygiene as a phrase, or oral hygiene. And then I can do that trick where I look for these phrases only in maybe the abstract, and then I add my second concept, which is diet. I could say diet or nutrition, and I can maybe take their suggestions or not, and look for these terms only in the abstract, and that's your keyword searching. So you're going to get a lot. In all these databases, you can narrow down by year, so don't get stressed out if you get too much. You can say, I only want maybe the last 10 years. That narrows it down a little. You can say, I only want if they were in academic journals. I don't want these trade magazines. So there's a lot of ways that you can narrow this down. Or you can use those controlled vocabulary terms. In this database and other databases that you've seen on this platform called EBSCOhost, that is going to be here. In CINAHL, it's called CINAHL subject headings. I've sometimes seen just subject headings. So you can search for your official terminology here. Dental health. I don't see one right away. You could try, this is clunky, I think. You gotta scroll down to the bottom, browse additional terms. Maybe it's not dental health, maybe it's oral hygiene. I could try that. Sure enough, it's oral hygiene. So that's the official terminology here in this database. Okay, so I usually click on it. You can have the definition on the right if you hover there, but I'm going to say, yeah, I want oral hygiene, and now I've got it as the official term here. It's starting to build my search. I can browse for diet as the official terminology. And I think I've got to go back to I've got to click on back to term list. It's saving my search on the right hand side. I browse additional terms. Yeah, this is very clunky. And then you can add your other terminology there. And again, this is only going to be, now you're just doing the controlled vocabulary. I'm going to say diet. You can see there are a lot of official terminologies for different diets. And then I want to combine these terms with and, right? I want articles that talk about both oral hygiene and diet. And now I can search my database. So that's a very small amount, 169. You can even narrow it down to better evidence by going to advanced search, which is a link underneath all the boxes there. And there's a little place where you can click on evidence-based practice. You can say, I want randomized controlled trials, etc. Okay? So that's CINAHL on the EBSCOhost database. Then I want to show you a few other tricks and tips. I like to show people these tricks in Google Scholar because I know students use Google Scholar. And these only work in Google Scholar, not just regular Google. So something that you'll want to do in Google Scholar is change your settings. And your settings can be changed by that little menu icon on the top left. You're going to look for this gear icon. Sometimes it'll say settings, but depending on your browser, it might just have this gear icon like mine. So you're going to click on that, and you're going to click on Library Links. You're going to do a search for Loma Linda University libraries if you're on your device off campus. Here it shows that I'm at Loma Linda University. I'm going to click Save. So what that's going to do for you is this. If someone tosses a citation at you, maybe your classmate said, hey, should we look at this particular citation? I'm just going to grab a citation from one of my searches. If I copy the title of what maybe I got in an email, maybe your teacher says read this article, and then I paste it into Google Scholar, you should now have this link when you do any searching in Google Scholar, and this acts like that purple button. That'll get you the full text that you saw in all the official databases. That works in Google Scholar. Okay? If I click on that, you should recognize that page that pops up. It shows you how we have it. It has the article link, so you're good. You just click on the article link. Then I want to make sure that you guys are all okay on all the questions you got at the beginning. Did you guys have any questions on that quiz that you had? Something that you weren't sure about? Do you guys know about interlibrary loan and Link Plus? Because that was like the second question. Okay. So, when you're getting to it, and you may be coming to the end, and you really have to write this paper, and you really need articles on your topic, and you did all the tips that I showed you, does the library have full text? It doesn't look like we have it. Here's how you would get the full text if we don't have it. That would be library homepage, library.lu.edu. You're going to go to quick links. And for articles, you're going to request an article through interlibrary loan. Okay, interlibrary loan, unfortunately, there is a fee that we're passing on from a library that does own it. It's usually $11 plus tax. But here, you could get a journal article, you could get a book, but that's your second option. Your first option for a book that we don't have is Link Plus. So from the library homepage, just library.lu.edu, if you're doing a search on your topic, and it could be a subject search, it could be a particular book you're looking for. In fact, I'll look for a particular book. That'll make more sense. I use this resource quite a bit for like personal reading. So I'm going to put in kind of a popular reading book that I know we don't have, and it shows that we don't have it at this library, right? So what I can do is I can look for this Link Plus. Here's the Link Plus icon. It's also up here. And this is an agreement that we have with libraries across the state of California and kind of some neighboring states, where if they have the book and we don't have it, they're willing to lend it to us. So it looks just like our catalog because we have a shared catalog with these different libraries. And it looks like we only have one, but if you scroll down, these are all different kind of editions of the same book. And you can see that like 31 libraries has this copy. And so you can borrow it this way. So you can click on that, you can say, yep, I want that. And then this is all self-explanatory. It takes you through. You can say you're from Loma Linda. Usually the turnaround time is about 3 days. It's pretty quick. And then you just come and pick it up at the library and then drop it back off at the library. Okay? Any other questions you weren't sure about? I think. or any other questions at all?
I think I saw some question on the third page maybe, or the second one, that was basically about the article or journal article, so I didn't know the difference between.
Citations?
Yes.
Okay. So in a journal article citation, let's just look at one. Let's go to Google Scholar. Here in Google Scholar, if you didn't know, you could click on this little icon that shows you the citations. In a journal article citation, is that big enough? What you're looking at is usually, there's the name of the journal in it, but then there's also usually a volume and issue number. Those are usually the biggest differences. If it's a book citation, here's a book right here. In a book citation, see how there's no journal name, there's no specific, usually there's a volume and issue number. So the only trick there would be is if someone is citing a chapter in a book, maybe the book title might look like the name of the journal title, but usually just look for the volume and issue number. Yeah, that's a good one. Any other questions? Okay, I know you'll have questions when you're doing your searching, so let's take a 10-minute break and be back here at 9:20, and then we'll have some exercises for you to do to find your articles, and we'll be circulating around. Heather's at the back, Gurmeet's at the back, and I'm Shan.
I'll play that for you, and I'll I think it's next week. Let me ask you. And then I I've never done it. I don't want to feel like.
Are you serious? Kayla, you got chili, right? How are they? Yeah, did you know that? I mean, what do you mean? Like, people are glued. Like, I'm not going to let for me too. It's going to be their cord. Okay. Yeah. Because my cord are suddenly charging. Like the charger and the light.
Yeah, if I try to plug it in, I have problems with it getting connected. But when I was dealing, I don't know if I lose this, but when I was doing the cleaning my light, like I had the button turned on, but it wouldn't turn on. Right? And I was like, hey, I don't know, maybe it was because they're loose and like not attached correctly.
That's
Okay, good.
I'm not even done.
Did he apply the payment for you? Did you do it all at once or the like a flipping plan?
Was here.
Yeah.
573 bucks and like 573.
So now you want to do it's to charge for the full thing. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's like that much. I may have a little.
Yeah, but right now, this time at first, I'm not sure if you well. Probably
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I like
he rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, because I hear all those things about it. Me too. Like when I was little, like I rode with my mother, that was just really cool. Right. And we would go there and like visit out. It was in India. Huh? So it's really big. But like it's really it's okay. But yeah, lots of times we do stuff for really fun. We drove around. Oh no, no, this is my friend. Yeah, that's crazy. Oh my god. But like we kind of like I feel like if you're not staying. Yeah, it's like I have water. It's not weird. Because I held my water bottle, some of the water is good. Oh, sorry, what do you have? We ate this I haven't even, but they're good. Yeah, and I was absolutely like, what's it like this? But we have to look it up on Yelp and stuff. Oh, right. Yeah, that's what you're asking. Yeah. I'm gonna look at stuff because I don't know really. Yeah. Because it's really good to like, I'm gonna try it. Go anywhere.
Try to get it.
Yeah, it's not too hot. There's people everywhere. Everywhere you go. That's it. I know. It's a little weird. So it's good. From there. Just like that when they're from yeah. They were from I know. Yeah, it was cool. Like we met. Yeah, because like we usually just go to church and then if you see someone like from school and stuff, but yeah, it's kind of nice to like get other people. So if we just that's like the first part, but we don't really know anybody else. Or like I'm so we met like a young adult group. And there's Chelsea, RJ, Hillary. We're doing Did you choose all of yeah, like they were really cool and they're trying to get like yeah, they're cool. There was like a small business. There was like a collegiate or like met some cool people and it was this old guy's house. His yard was like so beautiful, like really nice. But it was fun. It was kind of awkward. At first, definitely everybody's very expensive. You don't know anybody. Hey, yeah. It was fun. A lot of people. Only like 20 people. Like I met a lot of people from the degree. Like never seen some people. They're like, yeah, we go to the beach. It's cool to like get to know guys. You know, so it was good though. It was all fun and there's they said they're gonna have another one. There was nothing. Oh really? Okay, are you gonna go to that one? I'm gonna go to that one. Okay, I'll try to get it. Yeah, we should all go and it will be so awkward, you know. Like be like, hey, like we're together. And they said they're probably gonna do it for Friday and
Oh, we just go.
Yeah, we should. I should be everybody else.
When you left,
I thought it was going to be upset. August. Not sure. Like, it's like Just like we don't really know anyone from church besides. Oh, what's good? Yeah, just kind of like. No mingle, like social extroverted things. Extroverted things. Then go home and step outside of my box. Go outside. But then it gets so hot in the house, I literally have to leave. Did you have to show me?
What else? That's where Petro was. What the mean and all their stuff has to go on numbers.
No, he does. Oh, okay. But I feel probably like, yeah, practicing. Okay. Practicing that, stance. So, like, I felt like it was time. What the? Yeah, I'll get something. But I'm considering Oh wait, 8 to 12. Yeah. Oh, they said 8 a.m. Yeah, 8 to 12 hours.
Okay, let's continue with our second part. Can you have all of your friends join our class again? So thank you for all of those who completed the pre-test. So we finished that, we completed it as a hard copy. The post-test will be distributed via Qualtrics later on, and I mentioned at the beginning, I will let you know when it will be distributed. You should expect it, let's say tomorrow-ish. Just complete it when you receive it, and then you will get your 5 points for the post-test as well. So the pre-test and the post-test, a total of 10. If you just completed one, it would be 5 points on your Canvas. And we'll continue with a little bit of a hands-on portion, because all the descriptions of how to do an effective search is really better if you try it in class. And since we have now eight groups, this is pretty much a group project that you're doing. So you will sit down with your group members And some of you are familiar with the topic that you will be doing, and most of you will really have no idea what you will be doing, right? You just know your mentor, and it's up to you actually to contact your mentor from today on. You please reach out to your mentor, set up an appointment to discuss what you will be doing, what the direction will be for your research topic. It's good that it is a little bit open and flexible, because we would like to incorporate a lot of your feedback and your interest into the topic. So please discuss with your mentors of what you would like to do. So with this hands-on or exercise portion that we will do today, and we have Shan, Heather, and Gurmeet to help you with the search, because you saw it seemed very straightforward, but this is because Shan has that super duper expertise in searching quickly, changing it so that she can narrow it down. It takes a little bit of time, but we would like to help you, so we are going to rotate around to help you to narrow down your search so that you can narrow it down to 10 to 50 articles, and then out of the 10 and 50 you can choose 5 articles that you think are most relevant to your topic. And the 5 topics, I created an assignment on Canvas for you to fill out the 5 articles that you searched for. I will delay the due date for that assignment so that you have a little bit of time to talk with your mentors about your topic. But today, just select a tentative topic that you would like to search, and we are going to focus a little bit more on how to search and narrow down so that you can do an effective search. Yes, AJ?
So this today does not have to be related to our end goal research project.
Yes,
it should.
It should. Ideally, it would be nice if you can really narrow it down, or at least say, I'm really interested in this topic, so that you can look for that topic. But it does not necessarily have to nail down your topic. I will give you a little bit more time to submit the top 5 article list. There is a template to submit your 5 top article list on Canvas, but let me change the due date for that exercise. But today, just talk among your groups what topic you would like to search for, and then we will help you to narrow down your search. Okay? Yes, do we have any questions?
So basically just search something and then put it on the template for the top 5 articles? Or, okay.
Basically, number one, decide among yourselves a topic that you would like to look at. You can formulate the PICO question, use this search strategy worksheet that will help you and guide you through this process, right? And today is just exercising, and you have all of our librarians here with you to help you to narrow it down. But then at the end, so today is just exercising. There's nothing that you have to submit today. But reach out to your mentors, talk with them what your topic will be, what the direction will be. Once you have finalized, narrowed down your topic, do the search again, right? Do the search again, and then upload the 5 top articles that are relevant to your topic. Okay, good? Okay, let's the search begin. Yes.
Can you just kind of read off the topic?
Yeah, I don't think my group knows our topic.
Yeah, none of us.
Our group doesn't know our topic.
You don't know your topic, but you do know your mentor, right? Huh? And that's the case for mostly everybody. So there's not a set topic. Most of your mentors said to be determined with you after discussing. So today I would just do a topic that you are interested in, right? Just for an exercise. And then after talking to your mentor, you will know your topic, do a search again, and come up with the 5 top articles.
You know, just make it best here. I know right now.
She's the best. Yeah. Somebody's phone.
What is this? They will be the stuff there.
So we agree
Yeah, I think radiology, because I didn't see anything radiology related in the last year. We've been using last year, and like what terms we can do it, and then let's go to another way like this. Was to
So right now, do you want to just put like, affect you guys? Should I ask you to pay for like this hour right now?
Are we filling this out right now?
I know.
Help you if you're doing your course.
Right over here, guys.
First, synonyms, what you should use. So it's easy for you to search the article.
Okay, so population, let's just break it, let's just follow this.
Start with a question.
It's just a guide for you
Yeah,
to
the guide.
formulate the
Population would be incoming times interviews, right?
I don't want to do it. So it's
I like the idea of I think it's great.
She said that.
And she can result in class. Is that what was the, are we all in agreement?
No, she didn't. She had like 3.
You all like Well, is that what we were doing, or are we doing that?
Well, that's no. I feel like it's not a knowledge.
Oh, so what's our intervention?
No, but his delivery is flawless. They're cool. I know. Showing.
I told the girl that I spoke to, I told the girl, just choose a topic and practice while you have us here.
I'm so bored.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's probably because I'm here running around.
This doesn't have to be our end. What's the could just use this for today.
I know, like, guys, are we supposed to do this at their roots?
Okay, so right now we're pitching
So the release, like we'll say junior down to higher cost
2020. We need to formulate a question on from
Still out of it.
Wait, what are you guys searching on your database?
Watching the introductory video on taking radiographs, enhanced performance.
I just put this watching an intro videos or taking x-rays.
The handout is, you don't have to turn in the handout, that's just for you to use as a reference. So if you can, just think of a topic right now. It might not be the topic that you eventually do, but try a few searches while you've got us here. And then don't worry about the handout. Maybe use it later when you're actually formulating that actual, yeah. You could do it now, you don't have to.
Because we don't have our actual.
Right, so just make one up or one that you think you might do and try some searches.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay, so
When we are here, how I can find the journals and articles? Go to database.
wow.
The database is where you go for your topics, but I would use that guide that I showed you.
This one?
You go to library guides and then go to evidence-based practice. I've kind of narrowed down
And then I should go here. And what I
Dentistry tab. I would try any of these databases here to search.
which one give me articles? All of them?
Yeah,
All of them.
got it.
Thank you so much.
Definitely try PubMed. It's alphabetical order.
This one? Thank you so much.
We all kind of like it. We all we can use junior makes
What do you think about it?
Good idea? It's so
Here, I like so my brothers. Only to like my brothers. AJ, what if we get a meet with you? I can't leave Fridays to go to
It's
I just can't do next Friday because it's places. I know, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, like a fixed lunch.
You got the napkins and you got, you're not the side of It's lacking flavor. It's lacking flavor. I don't know. It sounds too bland.
Yeah, I feel like I like the taste.
You don't eat
I should go here, yes, because I want to see.
Actually, just put your search up at the top. Scroll up. Yeah.
Oh, here. And then choose that one.
I can walk you through. So go ahead and do
Anything?
yeah.
Any topic? Okay.
They were getting perfect scores just for doing
Well, she could grade those and see what they
Not that one. No idea. And then go here.
It'll do your search for you. So it changed it to okay. It's
Yes.
FLU.
Oh, yes. I missed those.
So you could. That's 309. That's kind of too much.
Oh, okay. So I have to make it.
You could customize it to better evidence
Customize.
by saying systematic review. It's in alphabetical order. So you
Which
can
one I
scroll
should choose to?
Scroll to the bottom, and there is. I would do systematic review, and then let's do randomized control trial.
Randomize.
Scroll up a little and do meta-analysis in the M's. Yep, there you go.
This one? Okay, meta, and then randomize, and then system. Okay, I got
And then
it.
show.
Meta. This one. Yes.
Yeah, then click show. Now you'll see those, and you can click all three of them: meta-analysis, randomized control trial, and systematic review. So now you went down from 309 to 116, and they're all pretty good evidence. They won't all be on your topic.
Yes.
So change this from summary to abstract, so you can read the abstract, and then decide whether you want it. Yeah, it'll change. So you can decide, here are the articles that make sense for my topic.
Thank you.
Which is the next term you're trying to use? Another concept. With dry mouth. Now you can narrow it down if you want to add.
She just turned around, you're like, what?
So you just take this one out. What do you can show it.
Yes.
I got one trying to say like relate.
Oh yeah.
I would be so just make sure
Or I'm just gonna keep my 60.
I mean, we'll choose like that. I found the one right. There's like what, 5
So this is all you found.
So we'll go on like we'll research and find out what it's supposed to
Assessing students' comprehension, listening, mental reading, grasp following, learning modules. And it was tested on general high school students on their confidence in interpreting mental reading and grasp.
The evidence-based.
Yeah, since we went through it ourselves.
space, practice, and then you repeat it. And then you go to get these and then on these knees, just and then here, there's something like
We have to submit it in a Word doc that she posted. So I just sent it copy and pasting right now. The due date.
But if we can get it done now.
which one? This one? Let's do.
Not necessarily that one, but
No, the five articles.
yeah. So we should have that after we, yeah.
Or maybe we can get some information now. I already have our.
It's true. You guys did this. I already reacted. What's that?
I have something else.
I have the numbers.
Have you guys used a air fryer for chicken?
Yes, first. Before that.
I might buy one today and try air frying some chicken. I thought about it.
Oh yeah,
We have one of those in the closet.
Those things are awesome.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother. Have you ever air fried? Have you used an air fryer? Have you ever done chicken with it? Like what problems like just bacon? And it comes out good?
I like it. I use it.
Just debating if I should try it.
I use mine more than I would have.
It's only like $60.
How many pots do you need? Okay, see, if I had more pots than 10, I would need it. But I only have one pan. So like, if I would make multiple things. My brother says it's really good for like, yeah, like frozen stuff instead said that, they did like practice.
Search on like
I watched
the
like
products,
like just from
you know, like diabetes and maybe open a package. But I can't find the right term because I keep on coming up with like microwaves and not like just
Wednesday is like Sunday. Wednesday, well, what?
Can't do Wednesday. Wednesdays are lunch hours. I don't think we should do tomorrow because tomorrow we don't have ortho. If anything, we should do.
How about Thursday?
Thursday we have clinic, and we need to like go out.
What do we have Thursday morning?
Thursday, well, I think it'd be best to do it at lunch.
Oh, yeah.
What if we did next? What if we did next?
Yeah, no. That's my family.
All right, you guys are just about done. I want to thank you for your time. If you need any help when you do figure out your topics, we're always at the library. The three of us are mostly the people that you see on the reference desk. So come to us with any questions when you really get into your searching. Thank you.
When is the 5 articles due?
I think she was gonna
Extended?
extend it until you know your topics, I think, is what she said.
So she'll post it on campus.
Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Are we supposed to refill out those questionnaires as well?
No, that's just for your, oh, I think she'll send that one also.
Thank you.
So what if we guys, what if we did the 23rd?
Yes, we have work.
No, she doesn't have that. But I said we do it this Tuesday, because we'll have lunch, we'll have work after, we don't have to and then. Yeah,
I'm gonna save this.
So they come in a frozen little pack. So it's like a let's look at this.
Okay, I like it, but
And then you put like a bunch of soy sauce, garlic, and like some spicy sauce. You make it like spicy garlic and
I like those.
Yesterday I bought them, and then last night I was like,
I know.
did you get steak?
no, it doesn't.
I don't know why you did.
Someone like a target snacks of like edamame or something that weird. I ate all of them. It was like, it was bad. It was bad. And like, it was so bad that my parents were like,
I don't know that research.
it was only edible.
We need to change our topic. Yeah, we need to change our topic too. We need to get a lot of it's so like we're changing our music. I can do it.
Okay, guys.
I was good.
I guess because Marley told us, like, you know, my voice is not
He was like, oh,
it's so ancient. I asked her Friday what Boop, boop. Beep, beep. Toot, toot. Beep, beep. I swear. No, I double knotted. Watch. I'm a double knot. Watch. Double knot. Guys. I haven't tried it. All right.